Thank you very much. I am actually really enjoying listening to the presentations from the other people talking here, both Mons and Linnea, and I'm sort of wishing I'd been exposed to this during my studies as well. My name is Helfrid. I'm not German, but I'm married to one, which is why I have a very German surname. But I'm half British and I'm half Swedish, and I conducted my studies in Scotland at the University of Edinburgh, where I did a bachelor's with honours in environmental chemistry, because I was very interested in the environment and problems around us. After this, I did a PhD in environmental engineering, where I did research on water purification technology, so membranes and reverse osmosis, in order to remove heavy metals, uranium from drinking water. And I was very interested also in international development work, which is also why I did a project at some point together with the Salvation Army with the water and sanitation programs in Kenya and Malawi. And we did develop their project framework around resilience and securing water and food. So after research, you delve you have very sort of focus on one particular question. I feel that I have broadened a lot since then. I ended up in Sweden as a guest researcher at KTH, where I also did teaching in natural resource theory and samhällsbyggnadsprocessen, so how to build our society, I suppose. And after KTH, I did projects with the water center in Norrtälje, and eventually ended up at Ecoloop, which is a small consultancy in Stockholm, and here I've now been for the past 5 years. Let's see if I can change my screen. There we go. Ecoloop is quite an interesting consultancy. I think we work a lot with the development projects in collaboration with several different partners, and we apply for a lot of development funding of different types. So sometimes we work as consultants to municipalities or for private sector as well, but a lot of the time we apply for funding from different sources. It might be Länsstyrelsen, so the regional authorities, or it might be national or EU funding. And we try to bridge this gap between research and implementation, and a lot of the time we find ourselves in collaboration with academia, with researchers, but also with municipalities, or with, for instance, Trafikverket, a lot of projects, which is I don't know, the road agency, or I'm going to call them now in English. I'm not using the correct name. Our main focus areas are really materials and transport. Material flows is one aspect that Ecoloop works with. And they have developed and are developing tools for looking at how can you reuse the masses in construction projects in a better way. If you know the flows and you know the quality of the material, then you can hopefully find use for these different materials. This is not something that I'm personally involved with, but I thought as geoscience students, this could be very interesting for you to know about. And it's a lot about matching different projects, construction projects, and seeing what material can be reused so that we can attempt to move in a more circular direction, and we can also leave these long transports of material that we are now at the moment we have a lot of in Sweden. What I'm more involved in is, of course, Ecoloop's water projects. Here I borrowed a picture from Svenskt Vatten, which is the umbrella organization for the municipal water supply in Sweden. And we work on several aspects in the water cycle, and it's the water production, of course, looking at how we can deal with flooding, but also in how we can make use of the water resources or the nutrients in the water. So I have colleagues that work a lot with at the wastewater and how to reuse the resources in there. I work a lot at what we call the enskilt dricksvatten in Sweden, which is the household drinking water supply, and over 10% of the drinking water in Sweden is from wells or boreholes. And this can work very well, but there are also some challenges with this. And that can be in quantity or in quality, of course. So together with the municipalities, this is just an example of a project that I was involved with, was to look at how can we save water, because a lot of areas, many areas in Sweden have different reasons to why the water supply, they need to work on water conservation. And there might be an actual water shortage, but it's also about the capacity of the water production. And that some areas receive a very high influx of visitors during summertime when groundwater resources are low. And a lot of our projects also are about providing examples. You know, how can you deal with your water shortage? How can you conserve water? So this is something that municipalities can use as for ideas or tips for households, for instance. And looking at water quality, it's also working together with municipalities and looking at what do they know and how can they deal with these quality issues. What advice can they give to the inhabitants, for instance, and how can they plan better in their areas. And we also looked at just water purification technologies, the types of filters that people use and that are available on the Swedish market. What kind of challenges are involved in these, and what works and what doesn't work. And here we see examples of different filters that are installed in households that are in use. And sometimes you might choose to use desalination. And there are various questions also concerning this. So at a small scale household level, it's becoming more usual also in Sweden to use small scale desalination. And something that I'm very glad to contribute to was the reworking or updating of the guide from the Swedish Food Agency surrounding drinking water quality for households. And this is, so that's an example of the type of work that we we do. Just some thoughts, as Måns and Linnea just also told you, that sometimes it's a challenge to find the right place, or I found that it was a challenge to find the right working place. So getting your foot in, doing some work experience is really a good idea, and just also to encourage you to keep trying, to keep reaching out, and make use of the contacts that you have. As I came back from the UK to Sweden, I found it quite challenging to just translate my experiences and my knowledge into Swedish, because, well, people might be quite used to seeing a CV in a certain way. They're looking for certain keywords. So for me, it was a very great help that just a contact shared his CV with me, and had lunch and explained a few things, and I just really found that very valuable. And in the work that you do be diligent, and you know, ask until you understand what the person who you're working for is actually after. That's also appreciated. And sometimes it's not the rocket science that is that gives you the work. This might sound a bit, but I've found that sometimes it's your collaboration skills, your project management skills, your ability to actually write a report that people can read and understand is actually very valuable. However, having an understanding of how the natural world works really is a good thing, and will help you in explaining how and your understanding of what's important, and how to deal with it. So that's also an encouragement. There's a lot of, as Linnea mentioned, there's a lot of writing, report writing and documentation. So certainly something to get used to. But also as encouragement, I guess I would like to say that you can find these specialist niches where you can work, or you can work more as a generalist, even with your natural science education. And that there are advantages or good things with both of these aspects, depending on your interest. And that was all for me, and feel free to ask any questions. Oh, and here's a photo of my colleagues and my email. Thank you.